Amartya Sen and his Bangladeshi counterpart Yunus.
Mohammed Yunus. Yes, the Grameen Bank.
Grameen Bank, yes.
These two gentlemen, both from different sides of the river, decided that they could quantify where at that point 6 billion people's lives were going to go. I mean, were they completely out of their minds? I really wonder what went on in their heads. But anyway, whatever it is, the UN loved it and latched onto it and converted into this mega driver of everything relating to our lives as citizens under states that had obligations to the system. So HDI, so we have HDI, the MDG indicators, the apparent failure of some of countries to achieve a required level of indicator position, and then by around 2000, already by 2012, in fact, the UN General Assembly system itself and the major agencies, UNDP, UNICEF, UNESCO was not in the picture at that stage, ECOSOC, of course, and perhaps ILO, I'm not sure. But they started drumming a different tune altogether. What they started saying is that, look, we've done very well on the MDGs for what they were supposed to do to make people in countries aware of their lack in achieving what HDI wants them to achieve, and therefore we need a new system. So we have success in administering and rolling out the MDGs, but clearly it's not good enough, primarily because the MDGs, Millennium Development Goals, were aimed only at developing and low income countries, low and middle income countries, developing countries. They said we need something that will cover the entire world and which will encompass also the emerging problems, the emerging problems of the world systems that we have inherited, which then includes environment, habitat, as they called it, biodiversity, and so on. So this was much greater in scope, much larger in scope, and encompassed not only the developing world, as in the former colonial countries and territories, but also the former colonizers. By early 2016, the next phase of negotiations about what these SDGs should do and how they should be monitored and turned into trackable commodities was already being discussed. And from there we get these numbers of what they call the targets and the indicators. Yeah, but there's some number of targets, the total number of targets and indicators, which are quite staggering actually. So here's what happened next. How many targets indicate how many indicators? You cannot imagine that this whole business of determining or trying to determine how many went on for about a year and a half. And mammoth sums of money were spent by statistical agencies and all sorts of other organizations to determine what is the target, what is an indicator, which belongs to which, should it be here, should it be there, is this the right phraseology for it, what happens when we translate that phraseology into other languages, phrases are coming from other languages, should we use it in English and the other UN languages, should we shift targets around, do they belong here, can targets and indicators be shared, and so on. This went on for about a year and a half at mammoth cost. These statisticians from the world's major agencies, like we have our Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, MOSPI, they were also a part of it. And in the same way, corresponding agencies and ministries in other countries were also a part of it. They were all roped into doing this, which was I mean, I'm surprised that CAG didn't throw the book at them. What on earth are you doing this for? Whose is it? Is it yours? But no. So they would have large meetings literally every other month in some exotic capital of the world, where 2,000-3,000 of these people would gather at a time and go on for 10-12 days at a time, just to get a list of targets and a list of indicators. Anyway, when finally that was done by 2016, we had this 169 plus heaven knows how many of the other ones. And then began the other machinery, which was to start moving into the major ministries of the governments, the major line ministries, all the ones that you can imagine, including things like, where our country is concerned, Ministry of Women and Child Development, which is a very important one for the same reasons that I was talking about the UN Women, Ministry of Rural Energy and so on, in order to get them to start aligning their programs and their budgetary outcomes to what the indicators and targets desire. This, I think, is in fact not the genesis, but the biggest signal that our administrations, our ministries, are totally susceptible to outside influence and control. There is no, there is no hidden hand to it. It was overt. It was completely visible, completely bare to be seen. So, from my point of view, I think I approached this problem in very much the same way that I did the problem of the description of a knowledge system. I am being asked to describe what I do, what I know, where I came from, and why I am here, not in my terms, not in my language, but in the language that I am told to adopt by a foreign agency, by an outside agency. Here, once again, but at a mammoth global planetary scale, I am being asked to describe what I want to do in my limited sphere for my country, not in my terms or in the terms that the people of my country are accustomed to use, but according to the terms of an outside agency, for which I also have to do the additional task of adopting this whole system of indicators, which I need to understand and I need to spend money to understand. And the reason why I'm presenting this also to you in conjunction with what I asked you to remember, what I told you about the knowledge systems, is that I see both as coming from, in fact, both do come from the same organizational mind that I mentioned in the morning. These are products of the same one. And although one I presented to you as being culture and this as being sustainable development, they really have the same genesis.